Xavier Worthy. So his chances to play are slim. He's considered doubtful for this weekend's game against the Eagles, but he's perked up a little bit. Looked pretty good in practice on a limited basis, coming on the field on that shoulder issue. Didn't have to wear a big brace on that shoulder during Friday's session. So, look, he's going to get to avoid injured reserve. That's the positive. He should be back in the next few weeks. They're just trying to get all their playmakers on the field. Rashee Rice will be back eventually as well. And you got Jalen Waddle. So he was a little banged up earlier in the week, but he is good to go. Head coach Mike McDaniel confirmed that Waddle will be in the lineup. They're trying to get Tyreek Hill and Waddle going now. Ugly game against the Colts last week, but, Waddle's really a guy who developed a lot of chemistry over the years of Tua Tagovailoa, but especially this camp. They were really cooking before they started to struggle in week one, so they're hoping that Waddle gets back on it. He is healthy, good to go.
A get-right game against the Patriots. The Patriots, a team that Waddle had 8 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown against. Jeremy Fowler is back. So, too, is last year's Super Bowl rematch. It's the Chiefs. It's the Eagles. The Chiefs trying to avoid an 0-2 start. What are you hearing about their game plan without Xavier Worthy?
Xavier Worthy made some progress this week. He almost got back in the lineup, but they're going to play it safe. He's doubtful for this game. So they're going to go with some old reliable options. Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then the newbie Tyquan Thornton that they acquired this offseason will play a role. He could be a deep threat for Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs do feel like they can make some progress despite being depleted at receiver, because the Eagles have been sort of shuffling around that cornerback 2 spot with the Dory Jackson, the journeyman, going to get the start again. Struggled a bit last week, so the Chiefs are hoping they can take advantage. And they know in this kind of matchup they have to run the ball well. So Isaiah Pacheco is going to have to be a factor. Also from the Eagles side, watch for A.J. Brown. Only 1 target last week.
8 yards.
They are hoping to get him more involved. It's got to be organic. They're not going to force feed him, but those easy slant routes that he can get 8 to 10 yards on, they're going to try to get him involved.
If there was ever a time to have home field advantage on your side, it is for the Chiefs at Arrowhead because they are many men down. In the NFC,
we like the Chiefs.
He likes the Chiefs. Let's bring it to the desk. And Bart, what's the one key element you're watching for in this game?
Always is Jalen Hurts' feet. He's a dual threat. He hurt the Cowboys in week 1, getting touchdowns and being active with his feet. He's buying time for them. I mean, he was one of the better running backs. Saquon only had 63 yards. But this is him, and this is the thing. You can't play certain coverages against the Eagles because Jalen Hurts' ability to run. In the red zone, especially, you can't play cover 1. You can't play cover 1 because you don't have anybody. You think that you can have a spy, but he can escape from either side of the offensive line, and that puts a defender in a tough spot.
Here's the truth. He has played, as you see the picks up on the screen, Bart the only one with green under him, which surprises me. I definitely like the Eagles in this game. Peter, Jalen Hurts has played great against the Chiefs in both Super Bowls they played. He candidly was the best player on the field in the one they lost. Last year he wins Super Bowl MVP. Why do you like Kansas City?
Mirror time. Look at yourselves in the mirror. This was a whole entire offseason of hearing that the dynasty is done, the window is done. Then last week, after a Friday night loss in Sao Paulo, Brazil, which was 2 hours away from their hotel, and it was on a Friday night, and it was a weird setting for them, everyone is off the bandwagon. This is the Kansas City Chiefs. I trust the institutional knowledge. I trust Mahomes. And I also trust that home field advantage. I think they will find a way when they need it most.
I think one of the things I'm sick of hearing about the Kansas City Chiefs is that, hey, man, they got punched, they got knocked down. Like they haven't faced adversity 5 of the last 6 years of them playing in a Super Bowl. They know how to rebound, but they have to get back to the basics. And what do I mean by that? You got to run the football.
Yeah.
You got to get Isaiah Pacheco going. You got to get Kareem Hunt going as well. Take your chances when they're there. Take some pressure off Patrick Mahomes. He already has to do so much. Take some pressure after Patrick Mahomes.
And I think the inverse of what Harry was talking about was the Eagles. They were able to get home in the Super Bowl, and they didn't have to blitz. Now, look, they're going to have Jalen Carter, maybe even Zadarius Smith. But against Dallas 10 days ago, Greeny, they couldn't impact Dak Prescott. And if we have Patrick Mahomes, regardless of who he's throwing to, if you give him enough time, he will find a way.
But what about the institutional knowledge that Vic Fangio has?
Yeah.
Right? We always talk. I mean, we can't.
Defensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Yeah, we can't flip the coin and decide when we want to apply the logic to certain teams. Like now, we just talked about Washington, how many close games that they had, and they walk out that saying that it's got to be a course correction. Well, nobody played closer games in the last couple of seasons than the Kansas City Chiefs.
But you want to know the difference between the two teams?
Their championship.
Damn right.
Well, but the
one
Eagles,
team's a champion.
Listen, I'm with
the other one's trying to become one.
the Eagles are the champions.
Right, correct.
Defending Super Bowl champions.
I'm talking about the Commanders. I'm talking about right now the Kansas City Chiefs and everyone talking about them winning their close games last year.
Yeah.
Like they found ways to win.
Right.
But here's the problem. I hear you. I think Kansas City will eventually be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
But I don't think Xavier Worthy is going to play this weekend. If he does, he's going to be severely limited. Rashee Rice has the suspension. I think they will eventually trade for someone like Tyreek Hill.
Right.
They always trade for a veteran receiver during the season. At that point, they'll be fine. This week, I don't know who Mahomes is throwing the ball to beat the Eagles.
It's not a fun, the biggest X factor in the game of a Super Bowl rematch might be Juju Smith-Schuster.
Right.
He might have to go 10 for 100 this week for them to win this game. That's their number 2 wide receiver. They're going to go Hollywood Brown, and Juju needs to step up.
But it could be Noah Gray. It doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes is going to get the ball to the open receiver.
Correct.
I just go back to the other side, and Andrew Makuba, he struggled as a rookie last week. Dory Jackson, who knows, maybe
He struggled massively.
Yeah,
7 targets and gave up 103 yards.
And a good pass rush masks those deficiencies, Greeny. And to me, Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith are good players, but they're not dominant, which is what was the difference of the game last year.
But Jalen Carter is, and he makes everything easier for those guys. They become better pass rushers once they have him. We want to talk about the effect of Michael Parsons. We got to talk about Jalen Carter in the same breath. He's a candidate every year for a Defensive Player of the Year as well. Give him that respect.
Let me go to the next game. I'm surprised by all the red picks there. We'll see what winds up happening. Joe Fortenbaugh, next game. Bears, Lions, Detroit.
Jalen Hurts is going to do what it takes to win. Jalen Hurts has better players around him, an offensive line that's more than stout. A.J. Brown on the outside, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Also look in the backfield, Saquon Barkley. Now, will he throw for 300 yards? Maybe not. But will he make the right play? Will he make the run on third down like we saw against the Dallas Cowboys? Will he use his legs in the red zone? Absolutely. And on the other side of it, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the arsenal that Jalen Hurts has. And Stephen A., you can look at me any way you want. We're now having a different conversation. When we had the conversation earlier about the Green Bay Packers, I talked about the Green Bay Packers. I ain't saying the Philadelphia Eagles wasn't good. I said the Green Bay Packers were the best team. And right now I'm saying that I was looking at me, and now right now I'm saying that Jalen Hurts is going to have the better day. And I want people to know this too about Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, based on what was around him in that game against the Chargers, played absolutely out of his mind. He made freakishly good plays. And Cam knows this. Sometimes when the people aren't around you as talented as you can be, talented as Cam was, as talented as Patrick Mahomes is, you can't do or go places your team can't help you go. And that's why, to me, Jalen Hurts has the upper hand.
S.A.?
Cam, he knew why I was looking at him that way. That's a brother that's been working with me for years because he knew exactly where I was going. I'm like, no, that this man ain't with his chest speaking out about Jalen Hurts just minutes after we just finished arguing about him against Green Bay. I was just taking it all in, but I got you. You covered yourself beautifully, I might add. Way to go, RC, way to go. Look, man, here's the bottom line. When you think about who's going to have the better game, it should be, one could argue, it could be Patrick Mahomes and the Eagles will still win simply because Patrick Mahomes is going to be required to do more just to give Kansas City a chance, whereas Jalen Hurts may not be. That's why Mahomes would be my answer to this question. Because I think with Hurts, it might be Saquon might go for 200 yards in this game. He might explode. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so, or Jalen Carter might be hunting and he's going to be back and he's going to wreak havoc, even though I don't think that's going to necessarily be the case against Patrick Mahomes. I just think that with what Patrick Mahomes is going to have to do in order for Kansas City to have a chance to win this game, I think statistically at the very least, we can look and see that Patrick Mahomes may have a quote-unquote better game, but the Eagles still walk away victorious.
Cam, I want to come to you on this because you have a unique perspective. As someone who went to the Super Bowl, faced the team they lost to, obviously the Broncos, take us through that perspective on how critical this game is for Kansas City and their redemption.
Well, that's the thing. This is just another game. I think we got so caught up in this being redemption. It's just a regular season game. When we played the Denver Broncos in 2015, that was the Super Bowl. When we played them for the season opener in 2016, I believe, that was just a regular season game. There were a lot of things that could have been done, but we still, we're hedging our bet to get redemption and find ways to get our get back or get our lick back. That cannot necessarily happen in this case for the Kansas City Chiefs. The reason, going back to the follow-up question, that I believe that Jalen Hurts will have a better game than Patrick Mahomes is because of this one specific tactic that Jalen Hurts does better than any other quarterback in the NFL. He's not afraid to run for a 3-yard gain, a 4-yard gain, or just to eliminate a sack. Jalen Hurts scrambles to run. And that right there, my friend, is what we call Steve Spagnuolo's kryptonite. Steve Spagnuolo wants to get into these 3rd and 8 and 3rd and long exotic look defenses that bring different pressures. And when you look at the statistics of what doesn't go well for Steve Spagnuolo, it's active and dual threat quarterbacks. It's quarterbacks that can rush for more than 40-plus yards, 45-plus yards. Every single time Steve Spagnuolo has had a quarterback rush for those amount of yards, they typically win. Last week, they didn't necessarily run for, or Justin Herbert didn't rush for 45 yards, but he rushed for 40 or 39 yards in this particular instance. When I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't necessarily have enough to negate what Philly has to offer.
Cam Newton, sorry, my bad, my brother, my bad to bring back bad memories, but I'm gonna go back to Super Bowl 50, which the Carolina Panthers lost to the Denver Broncos 24-10. And I remember you getting sacked about 7 times. I remember Von Miller being the MVP. I remember the Carolina Panthers committing 4 turnovers. But I'm gonna go back to that final score of 24-10. Y'all simply lost the game. Denver's defense showed up, they were elite. Y'all lost the football game. You didn't get your ass kicked. There's a difference. There's an ass kicking that happened to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl 59. That's an ass kicking now. See, we got to stop this, man. Listen, when you get your ass kicked, all right, when you spot it, when you spot the opponent 34 points in the Super Bowl, when you down 34-0, when you got 2 future Hall of Famers, the best quarterback in the game today, one of the greatest tight ends to have ever played football, sitting on the bench looking at one another like, damn, it's a bad day. In the 3rd quarter, everybody and their mother knew it was over at halftime. When you see something like that happening, that game the following year, it's not about a win or a loss on Sunday against the team. It's about how you perform. Again, there's a difference, and y'all know this better than me, damn it. That's why I get tired of y'all arguing with me about that. Damn it, y'all played. Y'all played the Super Bowl. You won a Super Bowl. See, you know that. I ain't never dream about playing football. Y'all know this better than me. There's a difference between losing and an ass kicking. That was an ass kicking we just witnessed, and I'm telling you right now, there's a residual effect to the point where you got to go out there and compete and perform, not win.
Hey,
gotta compete.
You can't get your lick back though. This not like you and the homie got in the, like you and the homie got in a fight in the street, and then I run in the house and I'm like, Stephen A, Cam, they jumped me. We gotta go get them. Like, it don't happen like that. There's so much time and so much change in between this. This is about who 2025 Kansas City is. And that team right now is 0-1 and did not play well against the Chargers.
Okay.
We're leaving it there, gentlemen.
Okay,
Gotta get into commercial break.
I'm just remembering this. Y'all know I keep quotes. Go ahead. I got you. Let them get their ass kicked again and watch what we talk about Monday. All right, let's go ahead.
We're going to talk about them getting beat on Monday, not the Super Bowl.
You know what I'm saying?
This game has a little extra sauce on it, and I don't care what any of you say.
Earn them the right to feel like a league success. You ain't got to tell nobody. When Derrick Henry was asked, yes, this man that's going to be a future Hall of Famer, about what the coach said, about what Grant Delpit said, what did Derrick Henry say? He said, we'll see on Sunday. Why? Because that's when the game is played. And throughout Derrick Henry's career, when the game has been played, Derrick Henry has not only shown up, but he's shown out. And so when you think about the secondary and Jerry Jeudy, right? They don't pose a threat, or they don't have anything back there. Jerry Jeudy made his first Pro Bowl last year. Jerry Jeudy's a first-round pick who is incredibly talented. On the other side, they got Kyle Hamilton, who's the highest-paid safety in the league. They got Marlon Humphrey, who is an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. They got Nate Wiggins, who's a first-round draft pick. You have Malachi Starks, who's a first-round draft pick. Sometimes this game is about respect. And it's about being able to say that based on my play, I don't need to talk, because when you cut the film on, you know who I'm going to be. The Baltimore Ravens don't have to whistle by the graveyard, because they are the Reapers. And Cleveland Browns may have talked themselves into finding out this week.
Stephen A?
I appreciate the eloquence of that argument, RC, but before I get into this, can I ask you and Cam to remind me of something? Isn't there random drug testing in the National Football League? I mean, they could just show up and just decide to test you.
Yeah, it's random.
Is that true? I mean, isn't that true? Like, it's random. It's not scheduled. They can roll up on you and just say, you know what, we need you to, we need you to urinate in this cup.
Stop, bro.
We got to test you right now.
Stop,
Right? They can do that, right?
They own something?
Hey, listen, it is clear. It is clear they own something. It is clear that the NFL league office should roll. If I'm Roger Goodell in the league office, I'm just picking up the phone to my detail and I'm like, yo, head down to Cleveland right now.
The Chiefs are about to drop a bombshell that's going to shake the entire NFL, and most fans have no clue what's coming. While everyone's obsessing over Xavier Worthy's shoulder and Rashee Rice's suspension, Kansas City is orchestrating moves behind the scenes that could completely redefine how dynasties operate in the modern NFL. What's happening with their offensive line strategy, potential blockbuster trades, and long-term roster construction is so controversial, it'll make you question everything you thought you knew about how this organization builds championship teams. When you understand what's really at stake in Sunday's Eagles revenge game and the seismic decisions brewing in Arrowhead, you'll realize we're witnessing a silent revolution unfolding right before our eyes. The Xavier Worthy situation is way more complicated than it appears on the surface. The guy dislocated his right shoulder in a collision with Travis Kelce, who took the blame for it, by the way, which shows veteran leadership, and was sidelined Wednesday. But I had to double check my eyes because he was back on the practice field Thursday, just 6 days after that ugly hit. Worthy was wearing a brace and sleeve on the right shoulder, which you'd expect coming back so quickly, but at least he's progressing from did not play to potentially game ready. But doing that in 3 days is a steep climb that honestly I don't think he's ready for, nor should we risk it. Matt Nagy made it clear during the week that Worthy was central to the game plan for Brazil, which shows how much they depend on him now with Rashee Rice out until week 7. We saw what he did for this team down the stretch last year, leading all Chiefs receivers in the postseason in catches, yards, and touchdowns. The analysis is simple. As much as we want Worthy back, we have to be smart thinking about the long game. Putting him in now and risking re-injury doesn't make sense. Connecting this receiver situation to another problem, Jalen Royals is still out with knee tendonitis. Missed Wednesday, missed Thursday, and that's a gut punch. This guy who people around the organization say has a Rice-like skill set could have eaten up some snaps, especially with the suspension going on. But Royals hasn't played, so that limits the options even further. This scarcity of receivers brings us back to Hollywood Brown, who fared well in week 1 with 10 catches for 99 yards, and Tyquan Thornton, who showed that deep threat ability. Mahomes just needs to nail down the connection better, but Mahomes still needs more options. We don't want to repeat that week 1 slow start. If Royals could just play, giving him a few design touches each game, screens, intermediate routes, would help replace some of what Rice gives you and reduce the wear on Worthy's shoulder. Shifting to one of the most urgent issues, the offensive line is going to be under the microscope again, specifically 2 players, left guard Kingsley Suamataia and right tackle Jawan Taylor. Week 1 was a disaster for the entire unit, but Suamataia's side was a hot source of pressure. He was letting Chargers rushers like Khalil Mack get to Mahomes, while Taylor, don't even get me started. I've been complaining about him for episodes because of penalties, but he had 2 false starts and 4 penalties total. Those are rhythm killers. You can't have rhythm killers, especially after losing your #1 receiver, especially after not having a running game. And this Eagles pass rush is relentless. It's a game-wrecking unit. If Suamataia's footwork or Taylor's discipline falters, Philly is gonna eat us alive. The most infuriating part is Taylor's $27.4 million cap hit and guaranteed, that's right, guaranteed, $20 million salary. That makes this sloppiness unforgivable. Josh Simmons is a rookie and he's locked in at left tackle, but we're paying you all this money and you can't figure it out. We might have to turn to DJ Humphries, who despite being a career backup might have to spell Taylor on the right. The brutal analysis is this: Mahomes needs a clean pocket and we have to salvage this 0-1 start. The O-line's lack lack of cohesion and penalty issues are going to bury us against an Eagles unit that wrecked us last year. In Week 1 versus the Chargers, the Chiefs O-line had 10 penalties and allowed pressure on 17 of Mahomes' 41 dropbacks. If you look at the Eagles' pass rush last season, they had a 67% pass block win rate, 6th in the NFL. This offensive line situation connects directly to another massive problem. We need to establish some sort of running game because that was non-existent in Week 1. We can't keep leaning on Patrick Mahomes to do everything. Someone has to take the load off him, especially facing an Eagles defense that got exposed on the ground last week against the Cowboys. Saquon Barkley and company ran for 119 yards, averaging 5.4 yards per carry. You know how bad that Cowboys running game was last season? It was terrible, but they were exposing this Philly team. However, we can't ignore that our own running game was trash last season, ranking near the bottom of the NFL. Now, yes, this could have been a fluke for Dallas. Week 1 games are weird, but it's a potential wake-up call to get the offense balanced. A more dynamic back is going to pull the safeties up, opening the passing game for our speedsters. I like Pacheco, hard downhill runner, but he has average vision, maybe even below average. Just really goes straight. His hands aren't that great, and his injury history. All those things are rearing their ugly head this season. The Chiefs' run play percentage back in 2018 when Mahomes had that great year was 23rd. Last season, 23rd. So really, no one's scared of your running game. You're calling the same amount of run plays, but it's not as effective. Reed needs to dial up varied run schemes or at least some new blocking schemes. More counters, more misdirection. Exploit Philly's aggressive front. Moving quickly to defense because I've only been talking offense. The Chiefs' defense got torched in Week 1. The entire unit got torched, but the secondary was especially bad. It got shredded. The D-line was also really bad, barely touching Justin Herbert. And now they're staring down an efficient Eagles offense. Jaden Hicks had a nightmare game. Chamari Connor wasn't much better. And where's our $20 million man, Christian Fulton? He barely saw the field. This unit needs to flip the script, and with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith coming to town, that flip better be fast. Spags needs to dial up the aggression on Jalen Hurts. We know Hurts is going to crumble under pressure, and one way to do that is maybe giving rookie Ashton Gelati some snaps. We saw some flashes. He could be the weapon needed right now to help collapse the pocket. You're not seeing it from Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Derek Nanati, or Mike Dana. The numbers from Week 1 are concerning. Hicks was targeted 6 times, allowed 4 catches for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had blown coverages, got shaken off by Quentin Johnston. Connor was targeted 6 times and allowed 6 receptions for 81 yards and a 118 passer rating against him. Nick Bolton allowed 5 receptions on 5 targets for 62 yards and 1 touchdown. Looking at pressure stats, Gelati had a 25% pass rush win rate. Small sample, but he had 1 hurry on 4 pass rush snaps and 1 run stop on 5 rush snaps. Hurts under pressure drops to a 45% completion rate, 5.5% turnover worthy play rate, and 61 QBR. Hurts in Week 1 had 62 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So even though that back end held up fairly well for Dallas, he's still gonna kill you with his feet. So Spags should unleash Gelati. He has that 4.65 speed. Let him chase down Hurts if needed. Disrupt those passing lanes. Now, while all this week-to-week stuff is happening, there are some massive long-term moves brewing that could reshape everything. The possibility of a Tyreek Hill reunion has shifted from speculation to plausible storyline. After a choppy Week 1 performance, the idea isn't as far-fetched as it once seemed, especially with Miami stumbling badly out of the gate. Hill is signed through 2026 and due to make $36 million next year with a cap number of $51.89 million. It's highly unlikely he'll be back after 2025, making him a potential trade asset. Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio wrote that if Miami's ship continues to sink, Hill becomes an asset that can be flipped into draft picks. For obvious reasons, the Chiefs are one of 2 teams to watch. Hill starred in Kansas City until his desire for more money sparked the trade. During his apology tour, Hill admitted he sometimes regrets leaving the Chiefs, and Kansas City could use him before and after Rashee Rice returns from suspension. In Miami's Week 1 loss, Hill was limited to 4 catches for just 40 yards. He battled nagging, pinch, oblique, and calf issues through training camp, but nothing has seriously impeded his health publicly. The salary cap complicates Kansas City's interest. Hill's 2025 cap hit is $27.7 million, and 2026 balloons to roughly $50 million without a restructure. The Chiefs sit 30th of 32 in available cap space with just under $2.1 million, so they'd have to undertake significant financial maneuvering. But general manager Brett Veach might at least explore a trade. A reunion would give the Chiefs a much-needed playmaker for Mahomes, especially with Rice suspended and Worthy sidelined. Another intriguing trade possibility is San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Jawan Jennings. Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox pointed to Jennings as a plausible target for Kansas City. San Francisco reportedly reached an arrangement to keep Jennings content for 2025, but he's set to hit free agency the following offseason. The 28-year-old enjoyed a breakout 2024 season with 77 receptions for 975 yards and 6 touchdowns. At 6 feet 3 inches, Jennings presents a formidable red zone target for Mahomes and would pair well with Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce. Of course, the 49ers would only consider dealing Jennings if their title push falters before November, but perhaps the most fascinating long-term storyline involves succession planning at tight end. For more than a decade, the Chiefs' offense has been shaped around Travis Kelce. He's been the central pulse of Andy Reid's passing scheme and Mahomes' most dependable weapon. Yet Kelce is 35, and although his production hasn't cratered, the unavoidable reality is the Chiefs must seriously plan for a post-Kelce era. Samuel Tititz of Chiefs Wire offered a compelling name as a potential successor: Oregon tight end Tay Kenyon Sadi. When Kelce decides to retire, the Chiefs need his successor in place. The 2026 NFL Draft lacks elite talent at tight end, except for projected top 100 picks, and Sadi is one of the top athletes in the draft class. Sadi appeared at number 11 on Bruce Feldman's annual Freaks list for The Athletic, highlighting the most athletic players in college football. He pairs the size of a tight end with the movement skills and burst of a wide receiver, making him one of the top mismatch creators in the sport. Listed at 6 feet 3 inches and 245 pounds, Sadi has consistently demonstrated the ability to stretch seams and win matchups against safeties. Oregon deploys him in line, from the slot, split wide, and even on jet sweeps, showing modern tight end versatility. His athleticism is impossible to ignore. Nobody will stroll into Kansas City and become the next Travis Kelce. That exact player doesn't exist. What Reid and Mahomes need is someone who keeps the playbook expansive, and Sadi's receiver turned tight end profile makes him an intuitive fit. One advantage of targeting Sadi is timing. Kansas City wouldn't be forced to throw him into Kelce's role immediately. They could run plenty of 12 personnel sets, deploy him in red zone, packages, and let him learn alongside Kelce for a season or two. There's also a financial upside. A rookie tight end contract would buy the Chiefs cap flexibility to address other needs.